Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm Jessie Anne Riley. Take the cake decor down in Southwest Florida and Naples. Tonight, hopefully people will ask questions and Debbie will fire them at me. And also we have some demos, small demos on application of some of the sheets onto buttercream. The first sheet that I would like to talk to you about would possibly, let's start with the smart sheet, which is very smart. It's a very smart sheet. And I use the smart sheet a lot. What I've used it in many cases for, and this is, I'm going to bring it to you because it's packaged very well, and that's part of what I want to talk tonight, this evening, about is the storage of the sheets. I find that I hear a lot of feedback about them drying out, and they're not as functional, or they don't think they are as they would like them to be. They come in a package, as you see here, and inside they're packaged up in a really nice bag, and then there's an opening right here that you can tear open and reseal after you take it out, or what you need to use for your project. And then I suggest that you put it back into the cardboard. I'm going to move this camera down a little bit more so you can see it. Back into the cardboard, and if you have some tape, just tape it shut at the top. If that doesn't help you, also I recommend a store-in plastic container that you keep your edible sheets in. So that's a smart sheet, and it's a higher grade. It's quite solid, flexible, but it can really take a lot of beating. And so that's one thing I do want to point out, that storing your sheets is very, very important. And there are different climates that the people are buying them from. So we'll go over each one. So that's a smart sheet. I'm just going to set that over here out of my way. And some of the things that I have done with the smart sheet, quite a few things I have done with the smart sheet. So I'm just going to show you, these are lilies that I make, and a lot of my cakes will come with them. It is the smart sheet, and then it is put together with a wire, cut like a lily. And then what I use is Tylose, and I stick a wire to it, and it dries in a couple of minutes, and then I dip it into Simi isomalt, Sidney Galprin's Simi isomalt, which is this isomalt right here. Comes in little packets, and they're pre-tempered tiles, and I would recommend this for anybody that's working with isomalt. So that's what this lily has been dipped and then stuck together, also with isomalt at the bottom. There is a center in it that I create sometimes. Sometimes I just stick them all together and they comb. Another project that I make from the smart sheet is lace. And this and the other tutorial is on YouTube under Icing Images on YouTube. And there's many, many, many of them, but each one of these and the dipping of the lilies, it's on there too. This is also a lace butterflies that are made from, am I on the camera? Where is it? There it is. They come up beautifully. They do. You can color it. I use gel colors with this rather than the watercolors. They seem to, with the mixture that I use in order to get the lace, it seems to work better with the gel. This is another image. It's a thicker and deeper mold, there is a long string that can go around the bottom of your cake. It just depends on your mats that you have, and I think Debbie has some wonderful ones that they have sell.
When you say the lilies are fastened with wire, is that edible?
The wire is not edible, but you can make them. What I use is a tong. If I do not want to put a wire on it, and then I dip the end into the ice malt, hold it up, and let it dry in front of a fan, and then I make them all, and then I stick them together with ice malt, so it would come together just identical to this. But you see, with these, you cannot see the wire. But in these, there is a wire. As far as I know, there's a wire. Just a minute. I have to have a look. Yes. These are.
Oh, sorry.
Pardon me?
You make the edible stems, don't you? You did that once for us in live.
I'm going to show you I come to that in the next group of sheets. So you can use the edible stems on these, but when I make them, as long as you're using tongs, which or just a small pair of tweezers, and you just hold on to the end of it and dip it in the sugar. And when I say sugar, I mean isomalt. I always refer to it as sugar because that's the way I was taught. So then I dip it, let it drain. When it's cool enough, I just take the end off it. I set it to the side on a sill pad, usually on one of these, and let them dry, or else I crumble up a lot of the oiled aluminum foil so that they take shape. And then I dip the other end into the ice malt and stick them all together. And there's no stem whatsoever. Like there's no, unless I'm sticking it onto a pre-made stem, which I'll show you that right now. At least I think I will.
While she's looking, hello, Sharita. Hello, Tahisha.
And so what I do is I make a little ball of isomalt out of isomalt. You can just drop it onto your sill pad. Then once it's cool enough, then you just form it into a ball and pull it a little bit, and it's got the center for the flower. And then I take a little isomalt on the end of each petal and I stick it to that. And then I hold it in front of a fan, and that dries it. And then they're set up. And if you want to spray it with your glaze afterwards, you could do that, and it will set. These are from SoFlo. After they're probably
so pretty,
4 or 5 years old, and they came from my cake out in the studio that I entered into competition. So that is a little bit. Now that's only a very little bit about the Smart Sheet. You can do a lot more things with it. I love to. It's my go-to sheet for. Let's say if I ran out of Flex Frost, or I ran out of another item that I usually transform into lace or into the other departments of what I need for the cake. The next one that I'd like to talk about that a lot of people use also is wafer paper. And
I do want to add, Smart Sheets are flavorless. There's no flavor to them. They don't taste like anything at all. And they are also very good at handling moisture. So they can go in and out of the refrigerator, freezer, and probably are the most versatile sheets. They just have the widest, I guess, usage range as far as the things that you can do with them. And when you print on them, there's two sides, a matte side as well as a high definition side. And when you print on them, they're gorgeous.
Yes. So these, there's a few things on here. These are, this is a Smart Sheet rose and on a popsicle stick. There's no wire and there's no center other than the Smart Sheet. And then I use the popsicle stick for the back. I was teaching a class and little people were making those, younger than I am. And this is, this does have a wire through it, right here. And this is the Smart Sheet. It is very well wired, if you'll see. I wanted it to look that way and give that impression. It looks like veining. So this piece right here, I'm going to show you the wafer. The wafer sheet, I think most people know what it looks like, but I'm just not going to take that for granted. I'm just going to bring it up here. I have some pieces that I've torn up that I might stick together and show you real quick. Comes in a package like this. I do say that I store them the same way that I described the Smart Sheet. And there's many plastic bags that come with all the other sheets, and this fits right into that. And again, you can pile all of these into one of those storage plastic containers. You can get them at possibly Hobby Lobby or something like that, and then your sheets all fit into that. And if you come from a dry area, you can just set it into your refrigerator, and refrigeration has enough moisture within there that it's going to keep them. If you're from Southwest Florida like I am, you don't really have to do that. So what I've done here is I've just got a piece, like you said, there's one side of this is shiny and the other side is dull. For me, it doesn't matter. Unless I'm making, let's say I'm making a rose or something that's going to show up and I don't want I want the shiny to come out over the rose. As in, these flowers right here that I have sitting right beside me. One is a tulip, and it is, I'm going to leave that out because I'm going to show this while Deborah's talking about it. These are stems that Nicole Bending Lamb was on a live here quite a few years ago. And she rolled up the wafer paper wet and then put it in the oven, and it bubbled all up and it got really strong and tight, and it looked like a branch, and she had dyed it, and a tree branch that was bubbled and had lots of defining definition that you could stick it together with whatever glue you're using, or you could stick it together with your isomalt. So what I did is I decided through Debbie asking me, can you make that and have it stand up straight to like a tulip? So this is one, and that is all edible, every single part of it. The reason I say that at centers, I make also the centers with crumbled up leftover pieces. I spray them and then I crumble them up and I form them into the shape of a cone looking item like this. And then I cover it with the petals of the same color that I've crumbled. And the reason that I have this pink is because years ago, Debbie gave me some colored, and these are not young flowers. These are been made quite a while ago. That'll tell you how much they have been through and how long they last. It's another one. This one I contoured. Now this is just rolled up wafer paper and let dry. You can actually put it into a dehydrator and it'll be done like that. And what I do is I just set them in the oven for a little while, not too hot heat, or else I just dry them with my torch a little bit over top of it and let them set aside. And I use vodka on mine. I don't use water. The reason I use vodka is because it dries very quickly. And also when I'm sticking petals on, I use Tylose and water in order for that to just dry very quickly. And then you could just, I'm not going to do it, but you could put this right in your mouth and eat it. And yes, I flavor it. The reason I flavor it because a lot of my customers that do order cake, kids get the biggest kick out of the flowers. So I try to do them so that they can eat them.
Gotcha. I'm going to interrupt you for a second because we have some questions that I think I'm going to answer in this. And I did put the link to Nicole Bendig's Lamb's live in the comments, so you have it there if you want to check out how she did did that. And where are the questions? Okay, so one question I did answer already. I messaged it in the comments. But printing on the Smart Sheets is the same as printing on an icing sheet. There's no backing to it in this case. And there's a smooth side and a texture side that give two different accents to it. And it's just a preference. Some people will swear by one side and some people will swear by the other side. But it takes printing really well. And then where was the other question? Catherine Donner said, save your scraps, always save your scraps. Okay, drink toppers. So Monica asked which paper is best for drink toppers. So there's a video in YouTube somewhere where I compared every single one of them and how long it took for them to dissolve, what the texture was like, and everything. A lot of people use wafer paper, but they're see-through and they melt really easily. In the end, I ended up actually the icing sheet was the best, which kind of surprised me. Everybody swears by the wafer, and then we also have the clear cello sheets, which were designed for that. But in the end, I ended up liking the icing sheet. So it's really a preference. The Smart hold on.
Not to interrupt. What's really good about that is to do what you're saying. You tried different sheets. And that's what I wanted to bring forward to a lot that are watching, or anybody that's watching this replay or whatever, that you can go to each sheet and test it and come up with your favorite way of doing it. That's basically what I do. Another way that I figure out to take them from what somebody might use it, let's say wafer paper for one thing, I take the ingredients and read the package and say, well, I want it to be more flexible, so how will I do that? And I might see glycerin in there. So I might put a little more glycerin in there when I'm working with it and wanting to make it more flexible. Now this is on all sheets, not just wafer. This is another crushed up flour I made. It's just crushed up leftovers, sprayed. You can use lemon, whatever you want to spray it with, acid. I use vodka or what's the other one? But I use vodka. And I put some flavoring in the spritz that I'm using. I use one of Debbie's little bottles, and it's marked. So it's vodka, but it also has the flavoring that I like to have in. So when I spray this now, I'm going to spray this and roll this up for you and show you how I made this stem. And then we'll move on to this. This piece is a topper that I made. In the office, you have those slicers that slice your paper, the old-fashioned slicers. Well, in order to save you some time, if you have one of those, or if you don't, just cut it in strips and then flip it over. And then I made a little piece of wafer here, And then I just took what I think it was tile and water and just stuck them and made a topper bow for that. And that's Wafer. And that is possibly 3.5 years old. So it's still just hanging in there real good. And this is torn wafer. You just tear it, spray it, and stick it. And there's no center. I did put it on a popsicle stick because I was demoing in a class, and they wanted to see. Some young people just like the popsicle stick. They're just going to not use it on their cake. They're just going to just go yum yum eat when they're making. So what I'm going to do right now, and I'm just going to stop this one more flower. I know it's a lot of flowers, but this is wafer, and this is what we do in the frying pan. You just wet it, drop it in a frying pan at a medium-high heat, and it ruffles, and you can take it out and make it into different size pieces when you cut it, and it bubbles up, and you can stick it together. And what I use again is Tylose and water. So I'm going to just move this over here and grab this carnation. This is a carnation made out of wafer, and yes, this is wired. You do not have to wire it. You just crumple them up and make one of those crumpled centers, and it just goes right onto it, and it ends up looking like a carnation. And then I just made the little leaves and just stuck them on there. And so those are some ideas with wafer paper, but we have, I think, probably a million ideas for wafer and for Smart Sheets. Now this is just, I'm just going to spray this and roll this. And that's what I did with those stems. I'm just going to spritz this down, and it's going to bubble up there for me. I'm going to turn it over here, give it another little spray. Not too much. Get it nice and wet. And then I'm going to fold it over. Can you see, everybody? You see what I'm doing? Okay, so I'm just going to take the ends nicely and just roll it like you're doing your cinnamon buns, and only little, very little. And once it gets to a certain size, if that's the size that you want, then just stop and roll the rest in another size. I'm going to tighten that up, and you see it's drying. This is going to be a little thicker than I wanted it, but you cut the wafer in half and just do part of it. But then also, if my oven was on, I could put this right into the oven and have it all bubble up like Nicole did. Just give it a little more wetness there on the counter, and very shortly, that's workable. If you didn't like the size of that, you can take long scissors, cut that in half, or cut it down here and then cut it in halves and roll it together. It's kind of like working with a piece of fondant once it gets going. If you didn't like to use the vodka full strength, you can also use the gel color and some vodka and some glycerin. And it does about the same thing, but it'll keep going like this because of the glycerin that's in it. If you use glycerin, it makes it very flexible and a lot of fun. And it makes wonderful petals and wonderful leaves that way. Now, you were talking about tearing wafer. I'm just going to tear up some wafer here. And I'm going to spray it a little bit. I'm just going to go off so I don't get this all wet here. I'm just going to spray the front and the back. Then I'm just going to crumple it together. And this is what I did with some flowers that I made to make it look like a fantasy. Most of the flowers I do are fantasy. So that's one petal. and you can take another spritz of this. This is a good way to make use up all of your scraps. You just take that and then you stick it to that one, and you just keep going and going and going until you have the size that you want. And that takes up and uses quite a few of your scraps. You can take then, if you want, the stem. That this is a little fat compared to the other ones, but I used half of what I was using. Then you can take a little isomalt, stick it on there, and then put your stem on there, and you've got a full edible flower. So I just set that aside and hopefully it dries. See, this is very set up now. See, it's almost dry to, and also Everclear is the other product that you can use. And if you want fast drying, if not, you can just use spritz of water and roll it up and wait until it dries and put it in a dehydrator, and that works too. Because some people, they don't want the alcohol in their product.
Okay. We have some other questions real quick.
Okay, that's good.
Printing on them, you can, it's just, you can print on all our sheets. That's why we carry them. That's, that's where we stem from, is edible printing. So everything you can print on. And hold on. Yeah, there's a sampler kit I linked as well. And then Rose Angel asked, can you stick the wafer paper stem in the cake without it melting?
Yes.
And that would
what
be
I
yes.
do with that, there's another demo on again with this, showing you that I also am going into protect that wafer paper if you're ever going into a competition or into your cakes. I dip it in paraffin wax. That is in the edible market. Your fruit is all rubbed with that, and it protects it. If you think that it's possible that it's going to, take on moisture, it shouldn't. But and it hasn't for me. But I do know that if I was doing a competition, you have to have coverage on that when it goes into cake, and I use paraffin wax. Just melt it down and dip it in it, and a fine coat of it, and then into your, and it won't come off in your cake. It'll stay right onto the wafer paper stem.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Jill Gold, can you print on all the papers? Yes. Mm-hmm. Not melt it. How would you store it for drink toppers? The same way you're storing everything else, you would store everything that she says on how to store it, holds true for drink toppers or logo cookies, etc. So I think she's been covering everything as how to store it. I know she talked about it in the beginning. And it's just you want to store it in an airtight container, whether it's a Ziploc bag or an actual container or the bags that it came in. And that's all for now.
Yeah, what I do also is I use the bag, and then if it's, which I'm in Southwest Florida, because I'm not going to get a dry season. It's not ever dry. But I have been, like Debbie was pointing out, with some sheets when they're out in, let's say, out west, it's going to be dry out there, unless you're in the mountains. And your sheets might be needed to be stored into and they're very cheap. They're not expensive. It's just a plastic craft container. And some of them come with slots in them. This one, you don't have to have the slots. You just put your papers in there in the plastic bag, close it up tight. If there's room in your extra refrigerator, just set it in there, because there's moisture in refrigeration. And that will help keep them flexible and soft. This is Wafer, made into my sparkle dust, my leftover. And all I did was airbrush it first with the color that I wanted, let it dry, and then I put it through in my coffee grinder, and I put my edible luster dust in there and made that. And this is some snow, yellow snow. That's a joke.
Just kidding.
Here's the white, and this is all extra pieces that are just leftovers from making flowers, and I grind them up, and you can take this and put a couple tablespoons into a little container with a little lid on it, add some water to it, and swirl it around, and it becomes a glue also. And then that is wafer paper glue with wafer paper. Okay, and it sets up quite nicely that way and holds very well. I'm just going to set these to the side, and I'm going to go on to Flex Frost. And we did Flex Frost a month or so ago, and what I did with that is I took it to another area totally. What I mean by that, I took it to making flowers into, I added some glycerin to it, a little extra, so they stay nice and soft and movable, and made these flowers. And this is Flex Frost. And yes, they're wired. But you don't have to wire anything if you use isomalt. You can stick them, just stick the ends into a little bit of isomalt, stick them together, and it becomes a flower. Or else make a stem out of the isomalt, and that becomes the stem, and you can just put that together. We also made little bows out of Flex Frost, very tiny. Also, hand painted into a mold, and then put the Flex Frost over top of it, doubled it up, and we got this pattern here. And
That's so.
this is Flex Frost. And
I put a. Oops, sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I put a link on how to create the lace. I wasn't sure if you were going to show that because you have a lot to cover, but it is up there if you need them. And there's a couple different ways to do it. I think, Jessie, you do it a little differently than me.
I do. I just slap it through water and put it on here, and I'll get Dave to hold on to keep warm. Well, I don't think we have time. I'll make it, but you won't see me pull it. But I'll take a picture of it after I do take it after it's dry. We'll leave it overnight, but I don't usually leave it overnight. What I do is I put my oven on, because my dehydrator doesn't want to, it's not big enough to take my mats. So what I use, a 170 keep warm for about 15 minutes or so, and it sets up and I pull it off.
You want it on?
No, I'm just going to let it dry, but I'm going to show you this. And what I'm doing, I'm going to turn the tap on so it's kind of lukewarm. And I'm just going to cut this in half. Everybody see that? I'll move the camera a little bit better than that. That's not good. We'll just fix that. Okay.
You're good.
This is just non-colored. There's silver, there's pink, there's gold. I got a bunch that I can show you, but right now we're going to cut this down here like this. I'm going to take it off of the backing, and I do not have to buy any acetate paper because I use these. I have acetate. This is usable again. So what I'm going to do is I just run it under the tap over here. There's the tap. There's me. Run it under warm water, let it drip off. Brought it over, and I'm going to shut the tap off. Have my little cloth here, dry my hands off, bring the camera back. And it's just sitting right on top of the mat. Now I know you're going to say, well, that's pretty easy. Yep, it's easy. Some people take a bowl and put water in the bowl, then put it in there and let it come together. And that's how I made the other flowers out of Flex Frost. So it's all adhering to it. So I'm just going to go here and pat it in. If it gets a little not wet enough, you can just put a little water on it. I have the pipette. So how easy that is. I know. Let's play.
It's like the easiest stuff in the world, and it turns out it's like the most gratifying thing. Maybe for me, because I don't decorate, so when I achieve something, I'm like really excited, and this is so easy, I can do it. So I get all excited every time.
Okay, you want you know, if you wanted to, you can use a full sheet. I was just showing you this as a demo. It goes straight across. Fill in all the little gaps, clean it up, and clean it down and over the side, and then set it aside. If you do that before you go to bed at night, you get up tomorrow morning and there it is, boom. But it'll even take less time to just set the 15 minutes, maybe in a real low oven or in your dehydrator. And by the time you get your cake masked and ready, it's ready. So we'll set that over here, out of the way. So that's how, I mean, how can you say that isn't easy? That's easy. We'll just wipe that off, make it clean. Set that over here. So I wanted to show you, look at the amount of colors that she's got for you, that you can get. I love the black. I like the black. I love them all, but black's my go-to. So we have some gold in here, and we have some shimmering pink, and we have the white, of course, and it's flavored, just like that. They're stored exactly the same as I was speaking to you earlier and in between. These things are so good. They're so tight. I have to get Dave to open them for me now. My hands have aged. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this pink. Look at that shimmering pink. Now I make masks like I'm going to do this right now. I'll show you. I have to show you this too. Look at this skirt. Look at this skirt. La, 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 la. And you have a cookie up here, and it's got a topper, and then you put another part of it on the top of her, and you've got a skirt there for a tall little girl. And also a cookie. This is a cookie that I did with Amy Hicks. But if you didn't want to do all the flooding and everything, you just go in there, put down your royal icing, and pull this together, pleat it. You can do the shiny side, or you could do the dull side. You just set it on there, and then put a little wrap around it, a little bow on the top, and you've got a fluffy skirt going dancing out for the night. Woo! That's quick. And I think that's Flex Frost for now. So we've to do this, you can also do the other side. If you notice on it, it's a darker color, and it could match into whatever color you put on the top, or use it that way.
And you can pipe with Flex Frost, can't you? Was that you that did that, or yes?
Yes, I pipe with Flex Frost. That's, yeah. You just break it down. And if you want it a little more squeegee or whatever, you put a little more water in it, and you can also put some gelatin in it, whatever content that might be in there that you might have it, or even corn syrup or glycerin, whatever you want to bring it together more, or just use it as it is. You just put it in a piping bag, and but you would hydrate it the way that you hydrate it. You put it in a bowl with water and mix it, and it becomes a lovely paste, and then put it in your icing bag, and you can pipe it into a mold or pipe it onto your product. Okay, so we have a sheet that's called Cello Sheets. Before we go any farther, this is a cookie that I stamped. I have old-fashioned stamps, sponge stamps that we used to use years ago. I've got bags of them. And I did a cookie with, already done with royal icing. This is prior. Then this is the stamping on the, I'm backing up a little bit because this is done with the icing sheet. And I practice on the icing sheet this time, and I will show you the also the other pattern that I have. I'm going to put it on a cake for you in a minute. So this, I just stamped it. I used, I made my old-fashioned I took Debbie's ink, edible ink, and I just poured it onto a wrapped, you can use a paper towel, but you don't want to, I used a paper towel, or you can use a towel that's designated especially for that. And if it dries up, you take a pipette with water on it and just hydrate it again, and you've got your ink back up again, or add a little bit more. And the inks come, if she still has them this way, they come in these little bottles that I have. And and I use that for stamping. And that's where I came up with, this is the icing sheet that we're going to use for putting it on the cake. I have the cake sitting over there, and I'm going to put the cookie to the side there because I'm going to put some cello sheet on that. I got to move along here, like move. This is a icing sheet also that I painted. And the reason I was painting was to test out some of the paints and things. Number one, when you paint on it, don't use gel colors. It takes them forever to dry. You can use the inks. They dry very, very quickly. There's another product that comes from the Sweet Chalet that are paints, if you don't mind me saying this, Deb. I don't know whether you stock these, but they're very good. They dry instantaneous. If they're set up inside, as you see this, you just add water to them and stir them. And if you want it a little more liquefied, you just add a little more water to them. And you just keep mixing, because then after you put the lid back on them, they'll set back up again, and then you can add water to it, and you're not ruining your paints. And they dry very quickly. This is wafer paper with stenciling on it. And remember this, there's a live on YouTube from Icing Images. I can't remember the lady's name, but she did this. This is on wafer. All she did was put down her stencil, and we dabbed in, she rubbed it with Crisco, fat, that Crisco fat. She rubbed the wafer with that, and then she put the stencil on it, and then she used her dusts over top of that. And what I did, the first time that I did this, I turned it into a cloth, and then I put it on the cake. When you put it on the buttercream like this, it could disintegrate. This is the Smart Sheet, and it goes right on the cake, and you don't have to worry about it going away on you. So it would hold up. I don't trust the wafer onto buttercream for a long period of time, so what I do is I make it into material, but only for the back part, and then it protects it, and then it goes on to the cake. So this is Flex Frost.
Beautiful.
And it makes wonderful, how we all had to wear masks during COVID. It makes wonderful masks and wonderful pieces like that, and puckering, and it just sticks itself together because the back is moist. So this is the cello sheet, and I'm just going to show you how to take this off. There is a white cello sheet, and this is the clear one, which you would think it is acetate, but it's not. And this is the white one. And Sydney Galprin has some prints that I get from her quite often. And this was one of my favorites. And if we have time here, I'm going to show you a little bit of this onto a cookie. It's another pattern that I have, and I have another cookie over here I'm going to show you. This is a beautiful pattern. You know what? It looks kind of like it moves into the sunset when you put it onto the cake. That goes right onto buttercream very easily.
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second before we get too much into the cellos. Catherine Donner had a question. She wanted to know why you put the shortening on the wafer before it was stenciled.
Because you want the luster dust to stick to it nicely. And when you take off your stencil, you're going to find that you don't have to worry about it once it's on a cake or you're making it onto a petal. Like, say, I made these petals. This is the cello sheet over wafer, but you can also do the same thing and just make them into leaves and make these abstract fantasy flowers or roses, whatever you want to do with it. But that's the answer. It's because you want it to adhere to the wafer. And that's the cheapest way of doing it. And it works like a charm.
I don't know if you're aware, we don't carry the white cello sheets anymore. We're only going to carry the clear ones.
That's okay. You say what I use too. Most people use the clear ones, right?
Yeah, that's why. We like our products fresh, and if we can't keep them fresh, then we won't carry them. So
that's right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet my finger here to find out what side is what. The sticky side is the cello. I'm not licking my finger, but even if I did, I'd be cutting it off. Not my finger, the cello. So I'm just going to take a little and just go through it like that. Make a little indentation. And I'm going to show you how that peels off right nicely. Now, one thing down here, if I'm doing a full sheet, I can lay it down and pull it all the way off because of the moisture. But it's a good idea if you're going to remove this image and you want the full sheet, that you lay the image down and tear it very slowly off. And if you need it full sheet like that, if not, then just cut it in half or in quarters of what you want to use and pull it off upside down like you would with lace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip this, and I'm just going to put this on that cookie in pieces. And I put the printed side up, because what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to spritz like I did with the bird here, those birds over there, and set it on my cookie. And you can cut a full round if you like, but this way you don't have to measure or anything. You just got to use up your pieces and decorate. We put a little yellow on there. It needs a little yellow too, not just all pink. And if it's too big, just a little snip. Set it over here. And we need a stem. Just like right there. Then you can pipe around the edges or whatever else you want to do to your cookie. I'm going to give it another little spritz down underneath here. And the royal icing is set up. And yes, that's very tender when you bite into it. And that sits there and it will blend right in. The other question that I get is, can you do that while your royal icing is still wet? I would wait until it's sticky because it works, and you don't want any indentations unless you're going for that design. So that's the cello on the cookie. The other thing now, we're going to move over here to transfer. Well, we have a premium icing sheet too. Right? We're done. We're at the icing. I've got the icing sheet right here, and that's going to go on the cake. So we've done that, and now this, I didn't have a whole lot of transfer paper on hand, so I brought my bugs and different things that I have made. This butterfly is a transfer sheet. And what I did was I took the ice malt in a small container, and we'll pretend this is this one, and I poured it into the middle, and then I went around, and then I used a dredging tool and spread it to the edges. Then you wait until it sits up, and then it pulls right off the paper. And there's the back of this, and that is just like, feels like paper. If you have any leftovers, just run your fingers along the edge of it, and it just falls off. This is, these are wired. And what I do with that is I make a loop on the wire, and I dip it into either gelatin and glycerin and water, and it makes that, and then I set it on top of the transfer sheet and got this. And this image came from Simi, and it's probably 12 years old. And this one also. But that's the transfer sheet. This is a bug. So what I did was I just, and I had these, this is actually a butterfly that I had, and all I did was make a loop with the wire and dip it into gelatin plastic, and then set it on top of the transfer and let it dry, and then pulled it off, and then I got a bug wing.
So, so the Simi transfer sheet and the Cello sheets, what I guess what's the difference between them, and when would you use one over the other?
Well, the transfer sheet is more like a paper, and what you would use it for, you can use a transfer sheet also to just put inside something, and the cello you can too. So with me, I would say that the texturing on a transfer sheet is more paper, and the cello is, when you feel it, it's got more of a plastic. So, and then when you use a transfer sheet, you're transferring. Whereas with a cello, you're putting it into or onto. Do you understand that? Okay.
Yeah. The transfer sheet is kind of what its name says. It transfers the ink over. There's no paper on the back. So like she said, there's like a paper feel almost to the back, but it's translucent, not transparent, whereas the cello sheet is transparent, and you print on that, and that whole sheet is used. Whereas the transfer sheet, when you pick up the isomalt or whatever you put on it, it transfers the ink or the image over to, let's say you're using isomalt, and so when you pick it up, the backing's actually left behind it. It only picks up the ink.
Right. So this is something that I did for Deb, and it's years old, and it's probably still on YouTube. I looked it up not long ago. But what I did was, this is a transfer sheet. So basically there would be the transfer sheet, and then I put royal icing on the back. And I took it on a bake sheet, and I put it in the oven, and I dehydrated it in the oven. And then I pulled off the plastic. Now, it was just very light oven, nothing big deal. It just needed a little heat for the transfer to come off. And then what I did was I made that, these are the test ones, but this was Debbie's. She loved this design. So then I made hearts, and these hearts went onto heart cookies. And it has the back of its red royal icing. And then it transferred off. So all I did was like just lightly warm it after putting it, and I dehydrated it in the oven, and then the transfer plastic came off of it. That's kind of, you'd have to see it. If you don't understand that, I'd have to show it to you. But it really does work. So now I have a cake over here, but before I show you the cake, this is Cello on a cookie. You know, we have Halloween coming up. And if you turn that inside out, which I'm going to show you the inside, it is a cookie in there. Eh? And then what I did is I wrapped her dress around, and this is a pattern that Sydney printed for me. And this is 2 years old. So it's just, I wanted to show you the diversity. Her arms are made out of isomalt, and her head is, and her hair is also. So that's a cookie. Now we're going to get a cake. And a turntable. Now, keep in mind that I'm probably on the camera going to do this backwards, but it's still going to work, okay?
You're good with everything.
All right, here we go. So this is an icing sheet, and I've had a lot of people say to me, I get bubbles. Okay, if you look at my cake, there's no indentations on it. There is some show through, that's okay. A lot of people ask me, can you just do a crumb coat? That's fine with me if you just want to do a crumb coat but it has to be smooth, or else if there's craters in it or anything like that, you are going to end up possibly having bubbles. Now we call this application the wallpaper application. So I'm going to take this icing sheet off of, and you save this acetate paper because I've got tons of it and you won't have to order it again for 10 years. Now there's something about the icing sheet that I want to tell you about myself. I love this shiny side. If I'm painting on this sheet, I tear it off and I paint it. And this is what it looks like just painted in. Just with luster. And there's the rough side. And you see, then what I like is I like the rough side to go in there. Not meaning that's just me. I have a preference when I'm painting to paint on the other side of that sheet. So what I'm going to do here is backwards, kind of look. A lot of people, this is damp. Okay, but it's not fresh. It's not just been masked or iced. So it's got something to stick to, right? So all I'm going to do is touch in the center. I'm just going to take my hands down and around here. And la. I don't use freshly coated buttercream on all the sheets. I use them just like you see that. And then the cello sheet. I'm going to pull the cello sheet here. If we got time, Deb, we got time, you want me to put the cello on there?
Yeah, go ahead and put it on. And I do want you guys to take notice that, you know, something she said was make sure that the icing is smooth, because if there's any indentations, they're going to trap the air. That's going to give you bubbles. But if you watched her, she put the center on first, and then she smoothed it as she was bringing it around the edges, making sure there was any trapped air was released. And if you miss some, you can use like a little tiny pin to release the air in there.
Yes, and then also if you want it rough, you can make it rough too. But what's glorious about these sheets is that they like to be onto and become part of the cake. Now the other question that I get too is, how do you cut it? Well, use a sharp knife. It cuts like a cake. If you have not let it sit onto the cake while it's moist for a period of time, it takes it a while. But usually when a cake goes to a customer, you're going to find that they're going to leave it sitting out for a period of time, and it works just perfectly. By that time, it has become part of the buttercream. So I'm just going to test this. This is the cello sheet, and I'm going to use this pattern up. I'm going to find the sticky side, which is that side. And, I'm off camera probably, but I'm just doing the same thing as I did with the other piece of cello. I'm just making a little indentation so I can separate the acetate paper from the cello. Just give me a sec. I got my cake in the way.
Yeah, so depending on your climate, sometimes they release really easily, and sometimes you have to put a little cut in it like she's doing so you can kind of just peel it back like a sticker. It just depends on the humidity level.
That's right. So I'm going to move my cake over just a little bit here so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to do this, take it off of the acetate. I'm going to lay it down so that I take it off gradually, just in case I tear it, which I'm not going to tear it, but that's in some climates it will tear. Dry climates. If you store it the way I was talking to you about a little while ago, you're not going to have that problem. Okay, now if you look at the difference between the icing sheet and the cellos, you see it's more movement.
Yeah, thank you. I was just about to say something.
More movement, see? And it's flopsier. So I just kind of turn it. Now I'm working backwards, so bear with me. So I do the center, right into the center. She did. I cut that the same length, so that's pretty good. I actually cut it to the same height as the cake.
Good job. You did fine.
Look at that. I just like smoothie. Now the other thing about it, see if you didn't like that, you can just like move it.
And very important, make sure your hands are dry. If not, you're going to smear that ink.
Yes, I put the ink side out. There you go. Now, the other thing is that if your cake is not level, like totally level, and you have your sheet come around, this is I leveled it, but the way I cut it possibly didn't come right together so that your sides meet up. I do suggest to everybody that measure. If I didn't like the way I put that on there, what I would do, I put it back in the fridge, let it set up. That sheet will come right off because it's still cold. That's the advantage of putting it on with just some dampness. I can pull it off. Then if I want to take these sides down, this is also pleating, but most times I don't cover the top the same way. I make another circle and put it down over top of it and just pull it in and let it rest just like that. It's nice and damp cake.
You're off camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am off camera. Okay, and then we pull that around there. And if you turn that around, and let's say if you wanted to make it look dapper, put one of these on top, stick that to it, it's stuck, and there you have it.
That's so pretty. I love that design, and you stamped that, right?
I can show you that. If you give me time, I'm going to show you how I did that.
Okay.
It'll only be 5 minutes. I always take more time than everybody else, so I'm just going to.
Okay, you give us so much information. It's worth every second.
Okay, so I have an ink blot over there. It's your ink, and this is a icing sheet, premium icing sheet. Now I do it on cello. If you wanted me to block it on cello, I can do that, but we're going to use the icing sheet. And if you don't mind, I'm going to turn it over this time and do the shiny side. Let's see how that goes. And I got to get my stamp somewhere over here. Here they are. See, these are just little stamps that I have. I got 3 bags full of all different, because we used to use them all the time before we went to print. That's how old I am. And We have some inks. I'm going to pile plates. And what I'm going to do is hydrate the black. I'm going to use black.
And can you turn your camera just a little bit
Yeah,
for us? We see more of you than what you're working on, which is
right.
fine, but
Yeah, there you go. So this is, I'm not going to dip my finger. You just put gloves on to do this usually. So I'm just going to take my pipette and some water and water this down a little bit. Not too saturated, but, and if that doesn't work, you don't get a nice image, then you can also see the difference in the saturation of this one to the, so then I just go around here and make an image of black and white.
I would have never known that the stamp was that design because the way you like overlaid it.
Yeah, I overlaid it, and then also there's butterflies, there's all different ones. Here it is. And you can take that and integrate it into your design just in there, and you can put that one over there, this one over here. And then if you wanted leaves, you can, I've got a leaf stamp that goes with the green. We won't go to the green. We'll just put some leaves in there, just design. And there you have it. You can make, now that is different on that side than it would be on this side. You see the difference? How it went right into this cake?
Thank you.
See the
Yeah.
difference? How it sucked right into that rough side. That's why they have that side out. And then if I was hand painting, what I would do is I would use this side. I like this side. But either way, it's the preference of the people that's using the sheet, little black. So then what I do is I take this and I wrap it in saran, and Dave goes, where are all our plates gone? I said, well, I'm stamping, so I'm using our side plates. Well, I hope that I've covered and I haven't missed anything. I do have another cake out there, but we can all eat that later.
There you go. That was great.